So I had a question about Ryan Day. And someone asked the other day, we were talking about Brian Kelly, and you asked, hey, you've talked about folks hating on Brian Kelly just because he doesn't have a national title. What about Ryan Day? And you actually mentioned the words hot seat with Ryan Day. I'm laughing because that's not the first time, nor is it the last time. You and I will hear that phraseology around the Ohio State head coach who has been there 5 or 6 years now and has yet to lose double-digit games. Naturally, he's on the hot seat. I think that's BS. So I don't really train headlong into that portion of the narrative. There's another portion, though, that I'm happy to traffic in. Now, as much as I like to push back against unrealistic expectations, I don't think it's unrealistic if you stick the thermometer in the expectation of the average Ohio State fan. You've got radicals on either side. Okay, where if you don't go undefeated every year, let's get him out of here, let's find someone else. That is not the norm amongst any fan base, Ohio State included. The norm amongst Ohio State folks is it's totally unacceptable to be losing to Michigan multiple years in a row. It's unacceptable for us to not be a Big Ten champion on average every other year. Now, with an expanded playoff, it's not acceptable that we're not in there every year. Now, these are lofty. Those are extremely rung one high level expectations, but when I don't have a problem with it is when you meet the expectation level on your side. So you got a 100,000+ seat stadium there. Is it sold out every Saturday? Yeah, it is. Do you get asked to contribute? Do you get asked to open your checkbook and contribute? Yes. Do you? Yes. Is there passion coast to coast for your brand? Yes. Is it represented well from a fan standpoint and engagement standpoint? Is it represented well? Yes, 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 yes. So if you meet all those, you got the right to have high expectation. I don't really care where you are, within reason, you got the right to have high expectation. The other thing is, I'll remind you guys, as we had Ryan Day on the show last spring or summer, and on that show he said, I'm fine with the expectations. And he said it off camera before we brought him on camera. He said, yeah, I may worry about how my family perceives it every now and then, but folks are free to bang on me all they want to. Doesn't mean it never affects me, but folks are free to do that. I get the job I have, is what he said. But what I'd ask, because Ryan Day's not in this room here, what I'd ask is I'll tell you how I view it. I think he's one of the best in the country and is still very young, relatively speaking, still very new at what he's doing. But he has been there a little while now. Half a decade is not brand new. The newness has worn off of Ryan Day as a head coach. But I would ask this. Forget about Ryan Day for a second. Just talk generic head coach. Do we all agree it's really hard to win at the highest level, period? I think we mostly agree with that, although some places have advantages others don't have. But having said that, it's hard to win. Number two, do we believe that the role of head coach in college football has evolved drastically over the past 5 years? Now, I would say most of us would nod our heads yes. Okay, so is it not then understandable, again, generically, not talking about a specific guy, that someone in his first years being thrown into that culture, that climate, could struggle to get his footing? And I wouldn't even say Ryan Day struggled. There are bounces of ball here and there. There's a missed field goal last year at the end of regulation against Georgia. That's probably the difference in me talking about him still trying to prove himself to the same crowd that would be celebrating his name had he won a national championship. And the reality is, in scenario A versus B, there's no difference in Ryan Day, the coach. It's just an outcome-oriented, vacuum that we live in. So here's the thing. They're going to be favored to win the Big Ten this year. If you nailed me down in March, which you legally do not have the right to do, I would pick them to win the Big Ten this year. It's going to be competitive. Don't have to win the Big Ten to get in the playoff, remember, because half the country gets in the playoff now. But I think really highly of him, and I think there is coming a day, just like there has been now with Kirby, just like there probably will be with Lanning, just like there probably will be with Sark eventually, where the same crowd that says they cannot realizes, oh, it should have just been have not. Because now they have. So how dumb does it look to have kicked Ryan Day off to the side? And I forget about him. 5 years in, doesn't have a national title. Forget about him. Little crazy. I do not participate.